New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well.
Any fresh injury concerns after Tuesday?
No, obviously we haven't trained yet, so today's going to be the first training session properly with the players that obviously started against Villa, so we will know more this afternoon.
You spoke about Declan Rice a couple of times this week and the swelling on his knee.
Yeah.
Has it reduced and has he got a chance for Saturday?
Well, not yet, and we have another session today. Let's see how he comes today and how that's feeling, but it was too early that game for him.
A couple of others in Calafiori and Mosquera. What chance they could feature?
They are both out.
They're both out, okay. Gabriel Jesus looking sharp, back scoring. Kai Havertz back in the squad for the first time since the opening day. How pleasing is it to finally have that selection headache, and how much do you think it could help someone like Victor Gyökeres having those players back?
Well, it helps the team, it helps every individual. I think that's what we want, to have the option with the amount of games that we have and the schedule. So far we haven't had that option, so yeah, looking forward to have everybody on it, everybody performing, being able to change profiles, to change during the game as well, and to pick the best players in the best condition every time.
It's Bournemouth next. The corresponding fixture last season felt like a little bit of a turning point because it was a first defeat of the season for you, but it was also a third red card of the season for you as well. 6 in all last season, but none so far this season. Are you pleased with the discipline and how it's gone so far on that front this season?
Obviously we know how important it is to maintain your 11 players on the pitch as much as possible, and we failed to do that last year. We lost both games against them, and we know the difficulty of that. We know how good of a team they are, how they can threat you from every angle, so we know the difficulty of the game tomorrow.
The transfer window is open, of course. You've said that you're Arsenal and you always keep your eyes open and are alert to any potential opportunities. If there was to be any arrivals in this window, would it be with a view to a long-term view with regard to the player that potentially could come in, or are you leaving yourself open to maybe a loan as well, maybe?
We are open to every option. Obviously, we can find a solution that is short, medium, and long. It's always much better because it gives you stability, and you don't have to constantly start a process with a new player. But let's see what happens. Let's see what the news are in the next few weeks, and we will try to make the right decision.
On potential outs, I know you've been asked this question before. Ethan Nwaneri hasn't actually played since the Bruges game. Wasn't in the squad at all against Aston Villa. What's your thinking with him? Would you maybe consider a departure for him on loan, perhaps, just so he can get first team football?
That every player is very important. Every player has a role. That role can change throughout the season for different reasons, and everybody has to be ready to play. That's it.
Just finally from me, Mikel, you will know that there's been a managerial departure in Enzo Maresca.
Yeah.
What was your reaction to it? Did it surprise you?
Well, wish him all the best. I really like Enzo as a person, as a professional. I think he's done a terrific job at Chelsea, and that's a decision that he's been made, and just wish him all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Morning, Mikel. Top of the table, 4 points clear of second place, Manchester City after a convincing win against Aston Villa. What is the mood like amongst the team at the moment?
Well, it was very good, obviously, after the game against a really tough opposition again, to perform and to win in the manner that we did. Great. Focus on Bournemouth. We know how tough it's going to be tomorrow's game, and everybody's at it.
You speak about the difficulties of facing Bournemouth. They were actually the only team to do the double over Arsenal last season.
Yeah.
What lessons did you take from both encounters?
Well, a lot. They were two very different games. Obviously, a game there till minute 30 when Saliba gets surprisingly sent off. After, obviously, it was a different game when we managed as well, and we had some chances, but we managed losing the game against a home display at the beginning that it was very dominant, and that ended up in a really poor way for us. So a lot to learn, huge respect for them. I know Andoni really well and what he's doing. I think incredible, and I'm watching all the games that they played this season and against the top sides, how difficult they made it and how they haven't got results against them as well. Difficult to understand.
There was a mention, of course, of the likes of Gabriel Jesus coming back and Havertz in the squad. Someone who's obviously done well up front for you is Leandro Trossard, the most goal involvements. How pleased have you been with his performance of the season so far?
Well, I think he's been very consistent, very stable, but all of the front players, I would say, because they all contributed through the season so far in a great way, whether it's starting or whether as an impact players as well. So that's what we need. Whoever we put in there, they will bring different qualities to the team, but I think they're in a great moment.
Do you sense a real hunger then from those attacking players to want to start?
Yeah, to want to start, but as well fulfilling the role when they have to come in an extraordinary way. That's something that we have improved a lot. So every time we bring in players on the pitch, they really decide in games, and that's what we need.
Thank you, best of luck.
Thank you.
Ian, talk sport.
Hi Mikel, how are you?
Very good, thank you.
4 points clear at the top. Would you have signed up for that right at the beginning of the season to go into the second half of the year with a lead of 4 points? And is it already beginning to, in your mind, look like that game at the Etihad could be the title decider?
Well, it's where we are, and we are really happy in the position that we are. It can always be better. There are things to improve, obviously, and the only thing we look at is that Bournemouth, the next game, and we know how tough it is for every opponent to beat them.
You've only lost 2 games this season. That kind of consistency, though, is what wins you titles, right?
Yes, but we are still in early January, so we have another 5 months to go, and so far we have to do much more.
The club's discipline, players' discipline has been mentioned already. No dismissals yet this season. How much of that is down to you? How much did you take them aside at the beginning of the season and say, listen, we have to keep 11 players on the pitch? And your behaviour on the touchline, you're still passionate and jumping up and down, but it also has improved.
No, well, I think it's we can talk about it, but at the end it's players' decisions, and sometimes not even their decision. So yeah, we had periods since I've been here that we had quite a lot of red cards, then none. So that has fluctuated. We know how important it is to have that stability in that discipline, and as well having the possibility to play constantly with 11 players. We try to do that as much as possible.
And finally, Declan Rice.
I think he's a top professional, top guy. He wants to help the team. He wants to help the teammates, and I have no doubts that he will do his best. Yes, no doubt with him.
Does he want to go?
You have to ask him. Antoine is behaving really, really well. There is a lot of noise around him, and he has been a top professional, and I'm sure he will be until the last day, yes.
A top professional, that must be really tough, given that everyone has linked him with the move away. That's Semenyo.
Yeah, because it's going to happen. It's going to happen. You asked me at the start of the show about the word on the street. Well, the word on the street is that he's going to sign a long-term deal at City, and he's going to be the latest addition to the Pep Guardiola stable of all-stars. And he's earned the move as well because he's been really consistent. He's been the most potent weapon in the Bournemouth side. He scored against top clubs right from the kickoff. You know, you think about the Liverpool game where he was so impressive in difficult circumstances, as we all know, and he's maintained that consistency all the way through the season.
I'd like you to ask Rachel the question you posed during the break.
What about whether she would be a regular first-team player at Aston Villa, as she was, or go to a bigger side, I won't name any specific side, but a bigger, an A-list side, where she would play perhaps 1 game in 3, which is potentially what could be the case for Semenyo.
I'm going to have to a political answer here. I think our debate was how tolerant are you? How good can you cope with being a sub, which may happen initially, which we expect will happen initially, as it often does.
And the psychology that you were explaining to me was really instructive.
And for some people, that is really difficult. Sort of the emotional turmoil they go through during the week of you training, you look like you're not in the starting 11. That sort of heightens as the week goes on. It then gets confirmed when you find out the team, and it's some players that's just really tough.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Semenyo has that much experience of that. But when you see his character from how he's performed at Bournemouth, and even just seeing how performed this season, because the rumours were certainly there in the summer as well. I think in some ways it maybe does make it easier for him to know that if the move happens in January, he knows he's contributed a lot to the first half of the season.
Absolutely.
And also he's made it very clear that he's thoroughly loved his time there. He loves doing well for the club, helping the club achieve what they have achieved. Last season was a huge part of where they finished. So he deserves his move, and it's just nice to hear that also the manager at the moment is saying, Areola is saying, he's a great professional. And I think nowadays we don't hear loads of that outwardly. So it's good to know that that's his character, and that's going to serve him well if he does go to Man City. Doesn't get in right away, or he has to fight for minutes, he has to compete. You have to suck that up and take your chance when you get it.
Yeah, Antoine Semenyo's been so critical for them. It would be such a pity for them to lose him, especially given they started the season so well. And now they win this in 10, down to 15th. What's happened?
Well, ironically, Semenyo's not their problem. It's at the back that they've got a problem, and they started so defensively well, but they've lost their way. Now, in a way, you can understand it because they lost through their back four in the summer to bigger clubs, including Heisen, who went to Real Madrid. And they're in a situation. They kind of responded to it really well. I almost feel like a little bit of an imposter talking about defensive issues when I got a fantastic defender alongside me. So I'll hand over to you for this little bit.
Yeah, well, they did lose a key number of those players, goalkeeper as well, of course, and that just unsettles you a little bit. It takes a little bit of time. There is some concern to those results, to not win a game. Then you build into that momentum, and it's funny how that happens. How you can have a structure that's very good, and then you run into a bit of negative momentum, and we often speak about it with forwards.
Can I ask you, Rach, so in these situations, what are they not doing here? Because I mean, this is against Brentford, right? What's wrong with the positioning? Is it a lack of communication? Sorry, that was Sunderland. Sorry, Brentford. But what is it they're doing so wrong? How have they lost confidence?
I think probably as a player, it becomes your instinct. So you start, just subtle things, you'll start to carry a deeper line, which encourages the team on, gives a bigger space to midfield to cover, ends up meaning the other team spends a bit more time getting opportunities, or you're more spread out, gaps to play through. So that's very subtle, but it can build. Then you end up with your own instincts. There's times when you're feeling confident, you'll just comfortably side foot the ball out of play. All of a sudden, when you're low in confidence, you get tense. And same with strikers. Talk about strikers being tense. They don't finish chances we expect them to. Same with defenders. A ball that you just think, just take your side foot and clear that height and distance. All of a sudden, you miss-hit it. Or in that, I think Truffer there loses his footing. Those are the things that, yes, you think it's a freak accident, but some of that's to do with getting your feet right quick enough, getting in position quick enough, and going back to some of the simple instincts. And it can be infectious, and it affects people around you. So it's tough when you're in that rut.
I want to stick with the theme of defenders as we move on to their opposition this weekend, and that's Arsenal. The statement win over Aston Villa. I don't really want to ask Rachel this question first because she's already given me the side eye. The statement win over Aston Villa in a run where they've been, lucky with own goals. They've had penalties. This was something else.
Well, I'll tell you what I thought when I watched this game. Look at the way that there is no tackle on any Arsenal player as they come in to score these goals. The space that they're given as well. To my mind, including the first goal where the goalkeeper just completely falls to pieces. This is an Aston Villa side for me that suffered stage fright on the night. Big match, crucial game. Had they won, they could have drawn level on points with Arsenal, and they froze. It was as if they were more used to seeing off sides where the pressure was all on the opposition than this one, because I think for them this was a real opportunity. That performance, particularly defensively, was inexplicable from what I've seen so far this season, particularly from an Unai Emery side as well that is normally so well organised. I expect them to bounce back this weekend because they play Forest. They've won their last 10 games at home. They'll be good against Forest again. But I just think they almost flew too close to the defensive sun this weekend, in midweek against Arsenal. And they'll just be glad it's behind them.
I want to talk about Arsenal because they are playing Bournemouth. And stick with the defenders question now that Rachel is okay with it and okay with me talking about that game. Gabriel Magalhaes, that game showed me just how important he is to this team.
Yeah. But also, I think one of the things is they have so much competition everywhere, and that ups your level in training every day. You know, we talk about making incremental gains. They are absolutely better with Gabriel.
Yeah.
He is, for me this season, the best centre-back in the Premier League, maybe in Europe. His contribution at both ends is absolutely remarkable. And I think his relationship with Saliba as well has flourished. But
What's he do? Well, what is it that Gabriel? Why is he so good?
Well, I think the relationship for me is the key part. And I think, and I've always felt like this playing centre-back, when you have someone alongside you that knows you so well, they know your traits, they know the times when you'll think, I think I can steal this here, and you might take a risk. The seamlessness in which you can anticipate and cover for one another, you can't quantify that. You can't quantify that with when you play with someone you've never played with, or you play with someone that doesn't know how you communicate. They don't know the tone of your voice. You know, when you say, deal with that, they know when you need to deal with that because you're under pressure. They know when you've got time because you learn to communicate. And so for me, it's the pairing. The pairing makes them exceptional. Then they have the momentum of players around them. Then on top of that, they have the competitiveness every single day for every single one of the players in that team, pretty much. I think Gabriel knows he's going to play every game if he's fit. But you got to be on it. You got to be on it. We got to get better every day. And I think Man City are similar and have been similar for a long time. That ability to do that, there are not many other teams that have that. Most other teams in the Premier League, you know, their best 11. And there's a drop-off in most positions. You might have 2 or 3 positions that like for like, but for Arsenal, I think they've such an advantage, and that centre-back pairing for me is it's a language. And the goalkeeper behind them now too adds to that.
And they haven't had that centre-back pairing in a long time, which brings me to my next question, and probably the final one on this game. Arsenal's injuries. I know everyone talks about their squad and their squad depth, but their injuries, do you think there's a bigger problem this season? Because again, the Aston Villa game without Declan Rice, who was injured, they haven't had their first choice centre-back for many, many weeks now. You know, the defence has chopped and changed. Nearly everyone's played at left-back or right-back in this team.
Of course.
I mean, does it point to a bigger issue for you?
No, I'm the opposite, actually. I think it points to a triumph of their recruitment, because there hasn't been a drop-off, as you say, in quality when other players have come in to deputise. And the fact that they were able to win so convincingly without Rice, that will also have been a psychological boost for them too. With the players coming back, Gabriel came back. We saw he took his T-shirt off. I belong to Jesus. And he was very bullish about his religion, his faith, because it has been a long, dark tunnel for him. But he's been able to come back and make that statement. And there'll be other players that are coming back. What will be interesting this next 6 months, 5 months, is Arsenal have got players back. City have Rodri back. That's what makes this such a fascinating final few furlongs, because obviously Rodri for them is influential, but the 2 centre-halves are pivotal. The goalkeeper as well, world-class saves in the last couple of matches. It's going to be a fascinating 5 months.
And we will. It's interesting you're saying about more about the hard to beat, the kind of 1-0 wins, etc., 1-goal margin. Is he more? Is Mikel? Is he more George Graham? Is he more Arsene Wenger? What would you say?
Any of them, both of them won it. But it's. Yeah, I know what you mean by a bit more George Graham. Being hard to beat. Getting 1-0 up. Like the song like 1-0 to the Arsenal came from.
Yeah, of course.
Score a goal, we know how to defend it.
Yeah.
And at the moment, that's what we're doing, and we're scoring a lot from set pieces. That's what we used to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, now Arsenal have a plethora of attacking options. They finally got back Gabriel Jesus, scoring again his first goal in almost a year. Kai Havertz returning from injury. He was back on the bench against Aston Villa, and Victor Gyökeres. How much of a dilemma do you think that is for Mikel right now? And I guess who's your starting centre forward for Bournemouth?
Well, for me, that is a good thing. It's a good sign that they're all back. And then you look at Jesus. He's finished it against Villa was just fantastic. He's got that composure right in that most vital time. Yeah. He can cut it back or chop it back when people think he's going to shoot, or he's got that one-touch finish. So it's going to be good competition. Because obviously there's a lot of noise around Gyökeres, with his form. That's for me is a confidence thing. He's got to try and somehow get his confidence back, because he's a proven goal scorer. It's just that he's finding it really hard in this division.
Yeah, what would you say, Sis, as well on Gyökeres?
I mean, there's games that I've watched and he's making really good runs and he's getting in good positions, and it's just that confidence, or that where he's trying too hard, and then there's other games where he's making a run where you're like, why are you doing that? But is that because you're trying to do things out of the ordinary that hasn't got you to your heights that you've been so successful before? I think it's a really good thing. I think it's a real positive that now there's a bit of fire in the belly as well with these strikers looking at each other going, because when things are going well in any team, and you've been in dressing rooms where you're at the top of the league and everyone wants to play. You know, if you get dropped or rested or wherever it is now, or, you know, whatever their class now, the ones finishers, that's it, finishers.
Yeah, finishers, yeah.
Everyone wants to play. You know, whether they get 20 minutes, if they get half an hour, everyone wants to get in there to make an impact, to get in that starting lineup for the next game. So with that culture, that environment that Arteta's built there is superb. You know, going to train every day, you know, training must be bouncing, everyone's enjoying themselves. And everyone wants to play, and everyone wants to have a Premier League winners' medal.
Absolutely. Well, the interesting thing, they're now 4 points clear into the brand new year. But I want to show you this graphic because it is quite interesting, right? Because this is basically showing. Let's pull this up if we can. On New Year's Day in previous years, we've done it before. We've done it top at Christmas Day. I think 3 times we've done it before, and we've never gone on to win the league. How much will that be? Look, you can see it behind us here. Arsenal under Arteta. You can see here, all the way from 2020. Obviously, they were in 10th position. Ended up second there. This is when on New Year's Day where they've been and where they've ended up. How much do you think it's in their heads? Obviously, being top at Christmas, that type of vibe.
It'll be in their heads, definitely. But the motivation of proving people wrong is massive. You know, I had that all through my career, more or less, when I got released at 19. And that motivation to prove people wrong and shut people up, honestly, it can be a big driving force.
Yeah.
Really
do you think there'll be certain players in that dressing room that are like, this isn't happening again?
I wouldn't. I think that happens when in certain scenarios. So, in a few weeks, if they drop points, which I think they're going to drop points this season for the remainder of the season, that's a given. And then Man City, because you don't want the one team you don't want chasing you is going to be Manchester City. You know, and they're going to be there or thereabouts, of course. And I think it's going to go right to the wire. But there's going to be moments where they're also going to go and build on the experiences from previous seasons where they've just come so close, and they'll draw on them experiences. You know, they'll have players that have seen that dressing room, someone like Declan Rice, the 2 centre-halves, for instance, the goalkeeper, good, vocal voices that will sometimes just go, listen, calm. We've been here before. It's not a problem. Let's just worry about ourselves, worry about what we do on the pitch. Just keep doing what we've done all season and it will come.
It's like when they played Sunderland. You know, when they played Sunderland and went one down, you know, that in the past would have turned into a defeat. Yeah,
that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, they seemingly have that resilience to almost get over the mark. But look, we have a very simple poll for you tonight. Usually we try and push the boat out, but this one, let's just welcome to Premier League Friday, some of the best saves of 2025 there, which brings us nicely to your specialist subject, David Singh, goalkeepers. You honestly, you were like a kid of Christmas Day watching that clip there.
Enjoyed that. That was so good.
Unbelievable.
Like goalies making saves, you know, like proper saves as well.
Yeah, really, really fantastic. I mean, look, let's start with your old side, obviously Arsenal. We're talking about David Raya. I mean, you know, he's been at the club for a while now and he's just really seemingly coming in clutch for them in big moments. How good is he in your eyes?
He's getting better, and I must admit, I didn't think he would get better from when he first joined. I knew he'd find it a little bit difficult, obviously coming from Brentford, the jump to the pressures of Arsenal, but he also had Aaron Ramsdale to deal with, you know, and that pressure, because Aaron was such a fan's favourite.
Yeah.
For David to come in after about 5-6 games, after Aaron had been voted the Premier League's goalkeeper of the season, the previous season, by the players, was massive pressure on him. And I was wondering whether he'd be able to cope with it. And he's said in interviews that he found it hard, and he got to a stage where things weren't happening the way he wanted it to, and he changed it. And he's just getting better and better now. The saves he's making are incredible. Yeah,
I mean, his stats, you know, show for themselves. I mean, he has been nothing short of fantastic for us. I mean, obviously a fantastic defence in front of him as well, first in the clean sheets. Catches as well, which is massive. And aerial duels as well, obviously 8th there. I mean, a lot has been made of David Raya's height, which is an interesting one. I know that there was a few fans online saying that, you know, he makes saves look good because of his height, because he's not as big as the others. But he's the smallest goalkeeper in the league.
But do you know what's weird though? Is that he doesn't look small in the goal.
No.
He fills the goal up.
Yeah.
I remember when we signed Richard Wright and Arsene Wenger was there and we were doing our drills and I went in goal and then Richard went in and then I came out and Arsene went up to me. He went, David, he says, why does the goal look so big when Richard's in it and so small when you're in it? But with David, the goal looks small. He's got a presence about him. He's got a confidence about him, and he's also got this calmness, and I think that's what the coaches were looking for, because when Aaron was first in, there was a little bit of but not erratic goalkeeping, but he looked on edge a little bit, and then he started bringing the calmness into his game, but then he got left out. But with David, you've got a guy he's so comfortable on the ball, and the catch. I was surprised at the catches stat there, because. Yeah. He claims so many crosses. He claims them more than goalkeeper. When he comes out, he's looking to catch it all the time, and 95% of the time he does. He very rarely punches it, and it's always a safe catch, isn't it?
Yeah. Did it shock you, Sid, seeing that he is the smallest goalkeeper in the league?
Yeah. And look at this. The save that he makes, his agility is just brilliant. Yeah. I think that's for me his biggest attribute, as well as you never really see him flapping or, like what David said there, but uncontrolled or out of position. He always just seems to be really assured and assertive, doesn't he? He never sort of makes an indecisive decision where he might come out for a ball and then go, oh no, that's not on. And if it's not on and he has to come back, he can make saves like this. Yeah. And he just gets up. He is just like a cat. Now, I was lucky enough to play with Shay Given and Carlo Cudicini, and very, very similar in terms of their height, small, obviously brave, but their agility, especially the ones where they're going one way and then they can just change direction really quick and then just do that sort of big stretch. But I mean, he saved them so many times.
That save was unreal.
Yeah,
because it's come through players as well. The touch he gets on it is perfect, and it was at a massive time of the game. We were 2-1 up. That could have been an equaliser, but his consistency is brilliant, and he doesn't get a lot to do in games, right? Yet when he's called upon, he's able to make saves like this.
Yeah, most of the game he's standing on the halfway line.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
And I'm like watching him and saying, get back.
Well, look, David, we did set you a task. We said, who are your top 3 current goalkeepers in the Premier League?
Yeah.
And I believe we can show who you've picked. I hope there is no bias.
This will be a shot.
Oh, there it is.
No, there's
but do you generally, despite, obviously your Arsenal ties, do you still put David Wright as the number 1 goalkeeper in the league?
Yeah, because of his consistency, his agility, the way that he makes match-winning saves. Man City didn't mess about. Early on this season, they signed Donnarumma, and we saw in his first game he made a match-winning save, and I think it was a Manchester derby, wasn't it?
Yeah,
he made a fantastic save. Sorry, mate. You're used to that, aren't you? He's made a really good save down to his right, and that's what he does, Donnarumma, and he's brought a confidence he brings a confidence that the defenders love, because he's not erratic, and then obviously in third place, this is the save that I'm on about,
it's
that's a brilliant save, and he makes that because of the size of him as well, because that's gone outside the post, coming back in, and he gets just the right touch on it, and it's a big save in context of the game. But what I like him, he's one of the goalkeepers that when he makes a save, he don't get up and really celebrate. He just stands there and enjoys the save.
Yeah.
Sometimes when goalkeepers get up and do like a massive, celebration of a save, I'm like, really? I've seen a few do it, and the ones that although I've said that, when I look at Martinez,
I was going to say,
he's one of them that he used to do that a lot.
Yeah.
But I think he's calmed himself down a little bit, But
so why Martinez in third then for you? What is it about him? Obviously, he's a World Cup winner.
They were so close, Donnarumma and Martinez at this moment in time. I'm talking about as well, because don't forget Donnarumma and Martinez of what they've won.
Of course,
I'm not taking that into consideration. I'm just talking about now. Like you look at him now, he makes the save and then he gets on with it. But his agility. I was at Arsenal when he first came to Arsenal as a 16-year-old, and they just paid £1 million for him. And I saw him, and I was coaching him with Tony Roberts, and we were like, oh my God, he's so raw,
Yeah.
But he got something. He could make saves, but he'd make them really unorthodox. But with the coaching that he's had and all the different coaches that he's had along the way, because he's been on loan. He went out on loan a lot of the time.
Yeah.
He's picked up and got better and got better. You know, and he's a special goalie.
So they're your top three. Steve Sidwell, are you going to tell one of England's greatest ever goalkeepers that he's wrong? Anyone else you would put in there?
That was a gentle tap.
No. For this season, Roofs. I like Roofs.
Yeah, Roofs doing.
Roofs has done really, really well. Yeah. And I think a lot of keepers are getting more focal point this year. There seems to be a lot more shots, I don't know the stats, but a lot more shots from outside the box or from just inside the box. Whereas before it was always kind of get the ball to the byline, cutbacks and goals from there. You see a lot of keepers now making good saves that are scrambling across and tipping around the post or over the crossbar, tipping it onto the bar from shots outside the box, which makes them not look better, but it makes them showcase their skills more, really. Which
and a lot of that is
their job. I'm going to go Roy Keane and say, it's
their job.
That's what we do. But some do it better than others.
Have you been, Steve? Have you been intrigued by? There was this whole thing of last year, if you had said, what does a Premier League goalkeeper need to have? It was you've got to be good on the ball with your feet. You've got to be good. Your distribution's got to be good. This season, Donnarumma isn't. He's not. He's one of the world's best goalkeepers, but he's not known for being good with the ball at his feet. Do you think that's kind of changed this year in the Premier League? It's almost gone back to that.
Definitely.
Yeah, I hope it has, because I get so many people coming up to me and say, I've got this goalie, he's brilliant with his feet. And I'm like, any good with his hands? Yeah. Because, the foot side of it, the feet side of it is something that's really important now.
Yeah.
But it's getting a little bit less. Because they're not playing out as much as what they did, because people are seeing the mistakes that goalkeepers have been making, especially when they try and bounce a pass when it's central goal, the area.
Yeah.
That one for me is a massive no-no. But when you watch people like David Raya with it, he looks so he's that comfortable on the ball. Players don't bother closing him down now because they know they'll get embarrassed by him, because he's that good. He's that good with it at his feet. But he used to play futsal as an outfield player, so that's where he's got his training from. And now a lot. I'm involved at Arsenal with the under-18s and 21s, and there's a lot of work being put in on footwork and the ball at their feet.
How would David Seaman in his prime? How would he have fared in the current state of the league we see now? When you look at goalkeepers, in the situations that they're put in,
a lot of the situations now are the only two that are different. Obviously, with the ball at the feet. If it was on my left, it was like Rosed. Yeah. If it was right, it was down to Thierry Henry or Dennis Bergkamp or Righty.
Good outlets. Yeah, exactly.
But other than that, one of the biggest differences that I'm seeing now is at corners.
Yeah.
The blocking and the pulling and all that's going on the goalkeepers now it's like a wrestling match.
Do you think there is too much? Because that's always a big subject. Like, Steve, I would watch the games and I would say, the goalkeepers are complaining too much. It's not too much of a touch.
So what's happened to obstruction? What's happened to that rule? That's just been out the window, because there's a lot of players going in, and Arsenal were brilliant at it. Ben White was the best one at it. He would be not involved, and then as the arm goes up, the ball starts coming in, he'd go boom, straight in front of the goalie and block him off. And he's not even looking at the ball. All he's bothered about is blocking off the goalie. And that's what's happening a lot now.
We've seen a lot recently, like Martinez against Aston Villa at Stamford Bridge. He was like wrestling two players before he even tried to even claim the ball. I think even when the ball went in the back of the net, he still had his arm on the back of João Pedro's shirt. It wasn't even up ready to sort of catch, and then we see it against Arsenal the other day as well. There's definitely a focal point that the body's in the box, isn't there? Like, pack the 6-yard box out, just whip a ball right on the goalkeeper, let's test him.
Of the season, aka FPL Salah, of course. Great to see you both. Thank you for coming down. We're at the halfway stage. How's the season gone so far?
I'll start, because it's not gone too well for me so far. I'm about 650,000, 650k. It's not the best start, but plenty of season left, and as you said, we've got the second set of chips as well now, so hopefully that could...
it does feel like it's been quite a tough season overall though, Lee, doesn't it?
Very difficult, very difficult. And like Abdul's saying, right, usually I get to this stage of the season, I'm like, well, at least I've saved my chips for the second half of the season, and everyone else has spent theirs. But everyone else is getting another round of chips, right? So we can't even really use them to our advantage, although I do think we'll get blank and double game weeks in the future. So we'll have a bit of chip chat later, but it's probably worth holding on to them, I'd say.
Yes, OK, we'll talk about chips very shortly, but we're going to kick off the show today by focusing on the Arsenal defence and the man that everyone, I think, now wants in their FPL teams, Gabriel. He is the most transferred-in player this week after his 15 points on Tuesday night. Lee, you desperate to get him in? You moving mountains to get him in?
Yeah, back with a bang, wasn't he? And actually, when I saw the notification pop up on my phone, Saka assist, Gabriel goal, I was like, oh, here we go again. You know, because we've been here already this season, so this is not a... Getting Gabriel back in your FPL team isn't a punt, right? We've seen this season, we saw it last season, and back with a 15-pointer. A little bit fortuitous, potentially, because, of course, the clean sheet got wiped out after he went off. But I think had he stayed on the pitch for the full 90 minutes, there's a reasonable chance that that clean sheet had stuck. So, yeah, I will be certainly looking to bring him in over the next couple of weeks.
And it's not a fluke, is it? We know what we're going to get from him. As we're seeing here, these are his last 7 Premier League starts. Of course, he has been out injured since game week 11, but 71 points over that time and 4 double-digit hauls.
Yeah, and look, he came back from his first start since he was injured, got 15 points and went straight back to the top scoring defender. So it's just what he does. And just looking at Arsenal's next few fixtures, they do seem a bit tough with Bournemouth away and Liverpool, but like, there's Arsenal just such a good defence, and he just is just so kind of talismanic at the set pieces. I think you just have to get him in as soon as you can.
Yeah, those fixtures do look tricky on paper, particularly that Liverpool at home in 21, but we've seen Liverpool have defensive frailties this season. Bournemouth are shipping goals. But it's not just about the defence with Gabriel, is it? It's the fact that he has a threat at both ends of the pitch.
Absolutely got that threat from set pieces. It's probably one of their most potent weapons. And if I look at the 3 teams they've got coming up, I think it's Bournemouth and then Liverpool. Can't remember the third team. Maybe We'll look at the fixtures in a second. Forest, that's it, yeah. Those 3 teams are all really susceptible to set pieces. Trust me, I've watched a lot of... As a Liverpool fan, I've watched a lot of set pieces go against us this season. So, yeah, we are weak. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so absolutely. We're absolutely weak to set pieces, and so are Bournemouth and Forest. So, yes, I hear what Abdul's saying about the fact that, you know, difficult-looking fixtures on paper. Will they get the clean sheet, Arsenal? I think they absolutely can. But even if they don't, then Gabriel's a pretty good bet that he's going to get something from a set piece as well.
Yeah, when we all had him before, he was a premium defender to own because he just gives us a little bit more. How much do we have to do to our teams to get him in? Is it points hit territory, or can we wait?
I don't think it's points hits territory. I think if you can get him in easily with your free transfers, then he's fine. But because of the fixtures, like, they're not great. So I think we can possibly wait until after Bournemouth and Liverpool. But I think if you can get him with free transfers, I think you just get him. But yeah, I don't think he's quite in hit territory just yet.
The merit to getting him now, though, of course, is the fact that his price has already risen this week. If he gets any returns this weekend, you imagine that people are going to be going after him again, so his price will rise again. If you were perhaps owning another Arsenal defender, a lot of people own Timber, of course, would you be tempted to make the move across from him?
I don't think I would, actually, no. I think Timber and Gabriel together, probably the play. I know that you're going to be spending a lot of your FPL pounds, therefore, in the Arsenal defence, but I think it's absolutely worth having. The one thing I would say about Gabriel is I think he, obvious thing to say, but he makes just every other Arsenal defensive option better, right? If you've got Raya, he's now better. You've got Timber, he's now better. One thing I noticed, actually, even at 2-0 up against Aston Villa, I think Gabriel made a block and it went out for a corner. He celebrated it like it's a goal, right? He loves those clean sheets. Yeah. So I think, if you've got Timber, I think you probably stick. If you've got Raya, then probably stick with him as well.
Would you stick with Raya as well?
I think Raya is from the defence, he is the one that you probably would get rid of. If you've already got triple Arsenal and you want to get that Gabriel, then I think Raya is the one with the lowest upside. I agree with Lee. I think with Timber and Gabriel, you've got the upside there. You've got Timber with the assist threat and the goal threat, and then you've got obviously Gabriel with the the really potent goal threat. So yeah, I think Raya is fine to keep. I wouldn't be rushing to transfer him out, but if you're going to get rid of one of your Arsenal guys, I think he's the one to sacrifice.
It's been a frustrating few weeks for Raya owners as well, hasn't it? When we take a look at those 2 clean sheets in his last 9.
Yeah, and I think it's the thing with goalkeepers this season, though, Kelly, is they're not going to get the defensive contributions that a lot of the defenders can get. We're not seeing the goalkeepers pick up the bonus points quite so much. And, of course, with Raya, the way that Arsenal are playing, they possession football, they're attacking so well, Raya's not even having the opportunity to make the saves either. So, really, you're kind of looking at a 2 or a 6 for Raya. So we talk about FPL point ceilings, don't we? It feels at the moment like Raya's probably only going to get a 6 or a 7, maybe maximum. Whereas with Timber and Gabriel, you know, you've got that double-digit haul potential. So I agree with Abdul. Those are the two to go for. And if, you know, by freeing up, by selling Raya, it frees up an Arsenal spot to get to those two, that's okay.